Good day, ladies and gentlemen. And today we are here to stream some Heretical Doom with the Crystal Skulls map pack. Oh, it's been a month. That is utterly insane, ladies and gentlemen. But, you know, when you gotta do a lot of overtime, usually too tired, and I'm still too tired today. And I got a headache, but whatever. We're gonna do it. And yes, there's actually a story for this, which I would read, but, well, I don't want to bore everyone. There's going to be a voice clip here that plays of "Greetings, mortal, are you ready to die?" When I first heard that in Hexen, I was completely floored by the fact that we had voice in video games. How time flies, indeed. So, Heretical Doom here is... It's not a rip-off of Brutal Doom, but it does update a few things. You actually have to reload your magical staff, which I happen to like, because I like the idea of, like, being able to just use magic on demand instead of having to do some kind of voodoo dance to get, like, a fireball to go off. I get the idea that, you know, low magic worlds are more balanced, but give me, you know, some high magic stuff now and again. Also, the staff is no longer a masturbatory fantasy. Actually, looks kind of neat, actually. Whoa, I just did something that never happened before. I guess he kind of exploded there. Check the old chat. Well, there's a lot of shit in the chat. Let's see. Games. That was quick, too. What games have you been playing recently? I haven't had time to really do much of any gaming other than the stuff for the review. Still trying to finish Shadow Warrior 2013, was it? Just have not had time to play it, like, at all. Played some retro games somewhat recently, though. Finally finished Arrow Flash, Truxton, and a few other things like that. I would have never been able to beat those games without easy use of save states, because save states are just... I mean, it's like save states. I wouldn't even get past the first screen without them. Hell, I might not make it through this without save states. Well, save slots, I should say. Hey, there's a Minotaur, way early. Now, all the weapons are modified a bit in this mod. If you hit the R key, you can kind of change what they do. The Ethereal Crossbow is like one of my favorite id-tech weapons of all time. There's just something about like a laser shotgun crossbow that I've always loved. Hexen just doesn't get the respect it deserves. Not Hexen, but Heretic. Well, I can't even get the name right! Heretic just does not get the respect it deserves. I mean, it is one of those games that, to me, it was just such an awesome concept of having a fantasy first-person shooter. And I think there's only been like a couple after this. Let's see here. Descent. I did a review of that a long time ago. Descent was another great game from around the same time. It had some very weird controls for that time, though. Especially if you didn't have, like, a flight joystick, which I did not back in the 90s. Although, even today, like, playing with it with the source port, I still prefer to use the keyboard controls. Now, there is a modern-day version of Descent called, It'd be nice if I remember what it was called. It's on Steam! I'm gonna review it. I probably should know the name of it. It's some relatively generic-sounding name, too. It's like Onslaught? Something like that. It even has a VR mode as well, which gave me motion sickness. It's that good, it actually made me sick. It was so real. One of the problems I have with actual powered flight is I end up getting motion sickness pretty much no matter what I do. Which is kind of sad, because when I was a kid I wanted to be a pilot. Oops. And was a big fan of aviation. I still am a big fan of aviation, even if I can't really, well, fly. Let's see. And hello, Ross Dude. And work has been all day long. All day long. I am exhausted, but, well, I decided to go ahead and do a little live stream of Heretical Doom. And Hexen on... I wonder why Heretic never got a console port. Because now that I think of it, Heretic would make a much better console port than Hexen. Hexen is a very complicated game. Half the time you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to do. That's 7 portals. Oh, that's 7 portals. Like, As a kid, I about never got through that. Whereas with Hexen, the level design is obviously more complicated than Doom's, but at least it makes sense. I think I'm supposed to shoot that. Yep, that's what I thought. I haven't played too much of this mod, but I did quite enjoy what I played. And I remember the nicknames I gave to pretty much all the monsters. Because the golems look a lot like mummies, so I just called them mummies, and then the guys chucking those axes, although they didn't look... Well, that's a boss from the last level of the first episode. He's just hanging out right there, he's just chilling. And these random dark sorcerers were like the enemy that scared me the most back in the day. I can't even imagine, though, being scared by that. Because I don't think our speaker system was that great back in the 90s. So it's like, oh god, it's highly compressed and ad-lib. Or we could have had something even more primitive than that. Now, what this mod also does is it does give you a level up system, which is cool. I always like little RPG elements like that in a fantasy kind of thing. I kind of came to the whole fantasy genre late, though. I've mentioned this in other live streams, but if this is the first one you've ever seen, fantasy was something I never really cared that much about. Oh, we got a new weapon. Some sort of plasma hand thing. I came to fantasy very late, and finding good fantasy is just not an easy prospect. Especially with Warhammer being dead like it is. Let's see. And, well, that voice acting is very glorious Nippon. And I've not played the System Shock demo simply because I never had that much interest in System Shock. I played a little bit of System Shock 1 and a little bit of System Shock 2, and that's not my kind of game, to be perfectly honest. If there was some sort of co-op... I know there's co-op for System Shock 2, but it's just one of those games where I'd kind of have to play it co-op or with somebody, because it would bore me, like, quite a bit. It's one of those games where you wander around and have no idea what you're supposed to do. And that it ends up annoying me more than it actually being fun. Did we pick up all the keys? Yep. What can I say? I am very impatient when it comes to gaming. As can be seen by the fact that when I try anything but first-person shooters, I kind of suck at them. Like, a lot. The bag of holding... I did not know that was a D&D thing until many years after this game. And for D&D... Also, they changed the portals to blue. And seeing as how blue is one of my favorite colors, I'm quite pleased to see that. Now, what you can do is you can find a secret right here. And I believe you get some random crap that you'll probably not end up using. There's a lot of Hexen weapons in this. And 3D! Oh my god, it's voxels! And so, of course, we have our hub-based levels here. And I have no idea what the order is supposed to be, because this is about as far as I've gotten. This is actually pretty neat. The little limbo level here. The Azure Annals. Let's see. Overload! Yeah, that is that modern-day Descent thing. I imagine Heretic could run on the Dreamcast. I imagine a Turok game could also work for Dreamcast, but alas, such a thing was never going to be. I've ever played Omicron, the Nomad Soul? Never even heard of it. Never heard of that. That sounds very glorious Nippon. I'll have to look at that after the stream, because I'm always looking for more Dreamcast games that I haven't ever heard of. Now, I forget exactly how this works. Okay, there. You can chuck flechettes with these gloves, which is kind of cool, but sometimes you just want to, you know, fry people with the little lightning fingers. I just kind of realized, these are kind of like the lightning talons of Horus from 40K, or the lightning talons in general. And speaking of 40K, I've picked up a shitload of 40K books as of late. And also have read a number of 40K short stories as well. Most notably, The Armor of Fate. Which is a short story that fills in some details on Rowboat Girly Man's return to life. Evidently, after he got brought back to life by the Eldar, he was stuck in some advanced power armor that kept him alive. And what's really funny is the short story. I think it's only like 50 pages. Talks about how difficult it is to actually live in power armor 24/7 for years at a time. It's probably it's probably worse than what RoboCop had to go through, because while that power armor looks cool in 40K, what old Robo couldn't really even pick up anything, because the short story talks about how he's trying to pick up some blueprints, and like he can't grasp it because the armor is designed for, like, you know, bludgeoning and all the rest. And how he doesn't even have a left hand in his armor because it's giant power claws. And he can't sleep because it makes too much noise. It's a good thing he's a Primarch because he doesn't need to sleep, but still. I just thought it was a particularly well-written little short story. And speaking of short stories, I also ended up reading the first book in the Dark Future series. It's a 90s thing. It's based on a 90s Games Workshop game. And I've known about that for a number of years, but I never actually read the book. And I gotta say, I was kind of impressed. It's written by the same guy who wrote the very first Warhammer Fantasy book. Writing's pretty good. It's a book of short stories, but they're all connected. Think of... It's kind of a weird book in some respects. It's got a lot of British satire, circa 1990, I think. And it's also a cosmic horror story. And it works on both levels. Although, you kind of have to have an open mind when it comes to the satire, because some of it is a little, shall we say, divisive, but still fun if you let it be fun. Really, the best way I can describe it is, think of like the satire of RoboCop crossed with Cthulhu. It's better than I think than I make it out to be, because it actually does get legitimately scary. And I think Jack Yovel, the writer, is the only person to make 666 scary again, because it actually is turned into a chant as this what is basically a chaos cultist. In fact, Tzeentch is mentioned by name since it was a Black Library property. And you got this Tzeentch cultist just chanting 666 over and over again. It's fucking creepy. Like, legitimately creepy. Let's see here. Dune Code is still in. I don't know if you could spawn cacodemons, but this is pretty much just an enhanced... they do talk... Official 40K does talk about Space Marines actually using their body processes. Most notably in a novel called Dead Sky, Black Sun. In that novel, these two Space Marines are on a chaos world called Midgard. Starts with an M. And they have no food, but they mention that the armor recycles their bodily waste into their food. So, yeah, you can. And you can recycle it. And eat it. And drink it. So, yeah. Grimdark indeed. That actually reminds me of Iron Man to a degree. Because, like, Tony Stark, when he urinates in the suit, says, oh, yeah, you can filter and drink that. It's like, yeah, because that sounds great. I guess if you're stuck on a chaos world, you don't really have much in the way of food, water, and anything like that, because it would all be contaminated. But still, though, they make those Space Marines pretty tough. See, if I was going to be a Space Marine, I would rather be a Space Wolf than anything else, because the Space Wolves are the closest to humanity that you're actually going to get, in that they actually aren't a bunch of humorless bastards. And they actually can drink grog. Well, not grog. Drink mead. The Space Wolves are by far my favorite Space Marine chapters because they are so human compared to the other Space Marines. And they make some of the most entertaining characters. Now, if Warhammer 40K Space Marine could have had Space Wolf characters, it'd been fucking great. And it would have actually been even more entertaining, I think, in many respects. Because Captain Titus, while he's a stoic, awesome character, imagine, you know, there's a character called Ragnar Blackmane. Imagine, like, somebody constantly snarking and cracking jokes. That'd be even more memorable. You got another one of these guys out here. Is it coming down the world? Let's see. And that is a very good game to have on your first PC. Dawn of War and its expansions are quite excellent. I recommend getting the Steel Legion mod. What's kind of funny is... I have no idea where I went just now. What's kind of funny about Dawn of War is that was actually one of the first games I got for my first ever laptop that I bought with my own money. I got that game along with Star Wars Forces of Corruption. Now, at the time when I got Dawn of War, the only expansions that had been released was the one with the Necrons and the one that brought in the Imperial Guard. Soulstorm had not been released, so I did not get to listen to the Space Marines, which is kind of a letdown. But oh well. Soulstorm was, of course, pretty bad. I also have Dawn of War 2 and some of its expansions. Dawn of War 1 never worked because of the goddamn games for Windows Live never worked. And some of the expansions were pretty good, but I never really got into it as much as I did Dawn of War 1. Just a little too... It felt kind of boring in some respects. You gotta love the 2D boats. The 2D water is also pretty great. Although the water in this looks a lot better than the water in Doom. Okay, let's save, since I'm still trying to find a key. Well, what's funny, I could actually be an asshole. Warhammer sounds like hell. No, Warhammer 40k sounds like hell. Warhammer is just your typical medieval crap. But yeah, Warhammer 40k would be a very hellish universe to live in. Mainly because to go faster than light, you have to literally go through the warp, which is hell. Warhammer, if you've never read it, never watched it, well, there's not really much to watch other than one shitty movie. But if you never actually read any of the books in the series, start with Space Wolf, move on to Kane, and then Eisenhorn, and you'll probably get hooked. The first 40k book I ever read, though, was Eye of Terror, which is a really weird book, but great. That is a book wherein people get rendered down into life-stealing wine. It was the 90s. You could kind of get away with that. Although it was the very tail end of the 90s. I think the book came out in 98. Level 4. Ethereal Compression. Like, what is that? What does that even mean? The only problem with the level up system like this is I have no idea what these level ups do. So it's like, I have no idea what the level up is actually causing me to be able to do. Okay, let's heal. I think I know I do. I know I get more health though. Because now I have to 115 health. I would love to know where that yellow key is. It'd be great if I could get that. It'd be wonderful. But Dark Future. It's sort of like a Weird West kind of thing, except it's set in 1995. But where, due to increasing pollution, the entire U.S. Well, no, the entire western half of the U.S. is now a giant desert, and gang cultists rule the land. Oh wait, like today? Wait, no, that's too political. But yeah, Elvis is a bounty hunter because rock and roll actually got stopped due to a giant plane crash that did not take out Buddy Holly and all the rest, but instead took out Little Richard, James Brown, and a few others. So instead of rock and roll, there was Russian soft rock that became popular. So basically how Dark Future Route 666, because yes, that is the title, goes is you'll have like the actual plot, and there'll be these little interludes where you read somebody watching TV, and future TV is kind of future TV is entirely a satire. But in the future, your TV is actually, you can interact with it. Up to and including, I'm not joking here, this was the 90s, a blowjob machine. I'm not even joking. Like, you pay X number of dollars, and, well, you know, you got that. It's satire. You just kind of got to go with it. It's very much Judge Dredd kind of level of satire, though. This is the one problem I have with Hexen. You can wander around so much in this goddamn game. It's not as bad as... No, not Hexen. Heretic. Yeah, not even I remember the title right. But overall, it's a good novel. I mean, it's not perfect. It gets a little too the satire gets a little too real on occasion, but yeah. I found it to be perfectly adequate. It's kind of easy to see why, though, that never got as popular as 40k. Because it really is just your typical Weird West kind of thing. Where the hell do I go? This level is huge. Look at the size of that. Cycling food stuff. Yeah, it would be disgusting. The Zon Consortium is a new faction thought up for a game. And yeah, the Tyranids are basically a hybrid of the Zerg, and actually not really. They would predate the Zerg by many years. Word Bearers Omnibus. I've not read that, but $5, that is not bad either. It is pretty much ridiculous as hell, but it's 90s British satire. And also in that universe, Margaret Thatcher was just a novelist. So I ended up reading that, along with another 80s survivalist novel called The Warlord. The Warlord was a novel that was a novel series I was aware of, and I remember it only for one reason. And that reason is, there's a crossbow on the cover. And much to my disappointment, the crossbow is not that important in the actual novel. I mean, he has it, and he shoots like 3 people with it. I was gypped. That crossbow is supposed to be a character in and of itself. But Warlord is another... It's very much a weird 80s era survivalist novel. It's not as bad as like the modern day Prepper Man stuff, where like Prepper Man has a Suburban filled with gold and bullets and all the rest. In this, they try to make it a little more fun, but the only problem is it suffers from the 80s ultra-violence, where it's got really graphic shit in it that's just unpleasant to read. I do not need to read a character being force-fed dog intestines, and it describes in loving detail of how slimy it is as he eats it. It's like, I didn't need to read that. Also, there's a lot of rapey in it that I also find unpleasant as well. So, yeah. I'm not getting any other books in that series, because, yeah. It's another one of those books where you know the writer knows he's going to make a shitload of money from it, because survivalist literature was very popular back in the 80s because, well, potential nuclear Armageddon and all that. But the book didn't have an ending, but still, it wasn't horrible. It wasn't a book that I regret buying. Let me put it that way. Because in that book, the characters are pretty good. The setting is suitably ridiculously awesome. So, in the future of 1980, whatever the hell it was, a massive earthquake hits California. And shortly before an even massiver earthquake, all the guns are picked up by, you guessed it, the California cops and military. Now, this is so horribly unconstitutional. That's the most unbelievable part about the novel, and we haven't even gotten to the unbelievable part yet. So they pick up all the guns. That's done to set up the survivalist plot. So all the guns get picked up somehow, and okay, what the hell? I need another key, and this keeps just teleporting me to here, but there's no other key here. Oh, do I jump down there? No, I don't jump down there. So what ends up happening is, after they pick up all the guns, there is then an even massiver earthquake that separates California from the rest of the United States. Yeah, I mean, how horrible. After that, the earthquake apparently broke open a bunch of biowarfare containers and have surrounded the island of California with, get this, a super acid fog. Now, it just so happens it perfectly surrounds California, and also there's some kind of super germ that's there as well, so no one can get back to the mainland. And so it's up to the plucky warlord to save the day with his magical crossbow. Okay, first off, super acid fog, really? But it was the 80s. The warlord is a kind of a character that... Well, also, the guy's name is Eric Ravensmith, the warlord. It's like, Eric Ravensmith, really? But it's not that bad. He's not a complete and total Gary Sue. Now, what he is a character that really couldn't exist these days, because, well, it's 2020. But back in the 80s, you guessed it, he was from the Nam. And and the main villain of the novel is also from the Nam. And there's all kinds of little 80s stuff, like one of the big villains also is a biker, because the bikers were the evil. Well, I'm not figuring out where that other key is. Unless that's a yellow... I see a yellow door down there. We'll go down there in a minute. A bunch of evil bikers. There's an evil mafia guy. It's very 80s. I would say I love it, but it's just... Oh, man, that some of those scenes are just so unpleasant. There's also a lot of sex scenes in it too, which they're not laughable like a lot of other books, but it's still like, why am I reading this? I could just be watching the Prawn Hubs. But the big problem is there's not really an ending. A lot of characters die, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but like you get a character that you actually like, and then they die like 3 pages later. So overall, not horrible, but I'd recommend passing on it, especially if you don't want to read a bunch of, shall we say, gross things. And hello, J6 Fitness Health, and all is well, although I'm tired. I don't think the internet's gonna no longer be free, though. Oh yeah, the phone did go off, but it usually does. So it's Viking. I don't think he's supposed to be a Viking, though. I'm glad you like Heretic. Unfortunately, I cannot re-upload those videos in higher quality because the original higher quality versions no longer exist. They were all on a hard drive that died many, many years ago. So what's there is there, unfortunately. There's a lot of reviews I would love to upload in a higher quality, but alas, such a thing cannot be done. Let's see. Terminator Resistance. Oh, Terminator Resistance. I gotta say, Terminator Resistance is quite good. It's a very good RPG. The gameplay is a bit generic. Graphics are pretty basic. But it's an actual... It's sort of like a simplified version of Fallout in some respects. Real Fallout, I should say. And it's actually from the first-person perspective, so I quite liked it. Have not finished it because I've not had the time. I cannot figure out where to go, so I don't think we're going to finish this level. We're going to just go skip ahead. Because I'm sure that if I was a little more awake, I'd find it, but like, well, been up since 5 in the morning. Actually, no, that's not especially true. I was able to sleep late on a Saturday and woke up at 5:45. Oh my god! Living dangerously. The only reason I did that is because I forgot to set the alarm for Saturday. Oops. It's one of those moments when you wake up, it's like, oh my god, am I late? No, I'm not. Let's see. Also read another book that was actually legitimately good, that I'm actually going to read more in the series, called Infestation. It's British Paras versus Giant Lobsters. It was not unpleasant. You didn't have to read about the characters, you know, getting ripped apart by giant lobsters. Had a sexy Russian spy in it. And overall, I mean, it was a lot of fun. And it's one of those few books that actually makes military characters compelling. Because I cannot tell you how many military SF or just military books in general that I've tried to sit through when it's like, the guy only wanted to be a soldier and all he is Mr. Stoic Dude. It's like, oh god, really? Can't we have like something more than Mr. Stoic Dude? It's like, even fucking Ultramarines have more character than that. But the British Paras were actually pretty entertaining. And, well, they're fighting giant lobsters that were awoken via Russian deep oil drilling. And there's other books in the series that look interesting. And the only reason I picked it up, though, I'm going to be perfectly honest, was simply because there's another book in that series called Operation Loch Ness. And it shows British Paras shooting at the Loch Ness Monster. I want to know what happens in that book. Like, I'm sold on the concept of British Paras shooting the Loch Ness Monster in the face. Because, well, gotta shoot something. We'll see how good it is when I finally get to it. Right now, I'm reading the first book of The Solar War, which is the first book in the Siege of Terra Horus Heresy miniseries. To explain any of that would take forever. Actually, not really. Horus was one of the Emperor's Primarchs. He turns traitor and tries to take over the Imperium of Man in the name of Chaos. That is so simplified. It's so funny because, like, there's over 10 years now of lore explaining everything I just said in exhaustive detail. And it's good! Well, most of it's good. Most of it's good. I actually did read another Horus Heresy book just a few weeks ago called Wolfsbane, where it's got Leman Russ, another Primarch of the Emperor, fighting Horus. It also introduces Belisarius Call, which is kind of a Mary Sue tech priest. I also picked up his specific book, too. I actually am a lot more, I actually kind of like Belisarius Call now, simply because he was kind of cool in Wolfsbane. Let me put it this way. Since all I ever get to do is listen to audiobooks for 10 hours a day, I listen to a lot of books. Now, when I say audiobooks, it's not really an audiobook. It's a regular book, but just with speech synthesis. Because I hate regular audiobooks because they talk so slow. Let's see. Well, Shadesman, that is very good timing. The Doom in Heretical Doom is... There's some Doom sound effects. Review the new Predator game. Probably not, because the new Predator game, I think, is just for the PS4. And to be perfectly honest, I don't have much interest in playing it, because it is basically Friday the 13th, but Predator. And I can tell you this, Friday the 13th, while not a bad game, it gets old fast. And, you know, it's like, do I really want to drop money to get, you know, a game that is pretty much identical to a game I've already played a shitload of that wasn't even that good to begin with? It's like, instead of Jason, you're the Predator. Instead of random camp counselors, you are random soldiers. To be perfectly honest, I liked Friday the 13th well enough. It's kind of fun once or twice, you know, playing as Jason, and I died. Playing as Jason, and like ripping people out of cars and stuff like that. It is a perfectly adequate game, but it's like, the kind of Predator game I want, I doubt we'll ever get. I want one, you know, with an actual story, plot, characters, where you play as the Predator, and like he's got to do something. Basically, I'd love to see a Predator Concrete Jungle 2, which will never happen. Not just asymmetric. Yeah, I can't even say the word. Asymmetric. There we go. I can speak the English. Asymmetric multiplayer game. Blech. Multiplayer. That means like the Humies. So yeah, not really interested in that. Where do you fall on Magnus did nothing wrong debate? And hello, Jacob Kennedy. Good rental copy of Star Wars Dark Lord Rises, Darth Vader. And yeah, that is a very good book, Jacob Kennedy. I have the original hardcover, and I pre-ordered it off of Amazon because I am an original Star Wars fan. But yeah, you know, that does actually remind me of like there was a time when you could pre-order Star Wars books and they would actually be good. Believe it or not. But whatever. Magnus did nothing wrong. Now, for those who don't know anything about the Horus Heresy, and that's kind of niche, I will admit. Although not as niche as it once was. Used to be no one knew what 40k even was. Oh man, I don't even know how you explain that. So, Magnus tries to warn the Emperor that Horus has turned traitor, and he does this by trying to contact the Emperor through the warp, which is basically space hell, and in so doing, lets out a bunch of demons in the Emperor's throne room. I'm like, there's so much more detail you need to know to actually have this make any sense at all. And he ends up breaking the Golden Throne, which allows the Emperor to connect humanity to the Webway, which is a way of going faster than light without warp travel. It's like, if you know anything about the lore, it's like there's so much into everything I just said. Okay, there's so much more than what I'm saying. Okay, so by doing that, he sabotages the Emperor's... Well, he doesn't really... He unknowingly sabotages the Emperor's great project of getting humanity away from the warp. And so the question is Magnus at fault because he did that? Or is it Chaos at fault because Chaos tricked Magnus into doing that? Well, my opinion is this. Since Magnus didn't do that with malice aforethought, which he wasn't trying to actively sabotage, he didn't even know about the Emperor's Webway project, it's not his fault because he didn't know about it, he didn't do it maliciously, and so therefore, I think he's absolved of that guilt. Now, everything afterwards is his fault because, well, he fell to Chaos and, well, became a Demon Primarch and all the rest. And if you know nothing about 40k, I'm just basically making random space language sounds. And yes, rip good Star Wars. It's all gone. It's all gone. What a world. Oh. Let's see, how long have I been going? Only 34 minutes? Wow, I was feeling like crap today, and as I play this, I feel more and more like crap. I'll try to go for at least 45 minutes, since I've been waiting a month for me to do this stuff, but it's like, ugh. I've been feeling like crap because of all the actual Joe work that I've been doing. And tomorrow I'm actually going to do some video work. Get some more Alien book reviews out. Aliens Phalanx. That's, I think, the most recent Alien book that came out this year. Basically, oh man, I almost spoiled it. That's one book I don't want to spoil because I was like so impressed by how good that book was, and I expected it to be complete crap. It's like everything about the book was about the cover and the synopsis was a lie, and the actual, content of the book was just so good that I would love it if everyone else could get the same pleasant surprise that I got. Because, damn. Like, that is one of the best Alien books I've read since the 90s. Since fucking 1999. It was that good. And it's, of course, still set in the modern Aliens continuity, but, it works so well for what they were trying to do. Let's see. I still don't want Jar Jar back. And that 40k lore, man. Favorite console? I don't know what my favorite console would be, other than maybe PC, since that's what I've used the most. Actually, no, I take that lie back. My favorite physical console, not that it's the easiest to play due to its controller, but my favorite physical console would still have to be the N64. Now, of course, playing the games on the PC is a much better idea, because you can emulate with, any control you want with a joystick that you don't have to worry about breaking. But yeah, the N64 has by far the most games for it that I actually legitimately really, really like. It's like just about every game on that system was an absolute gem. A lot of the other consoles I never owned that many games for back when they were, the only way to play the games. Like the Super Nintendo, I didn't have that many games for it. I don't really count the Xbox as that retro. I mean, it's retro now because it's like 20 years old, but a lot of the games on there were PC games eventually anyway. But the N64, you got your Turok, you got your Star Wars. I mean, it was a system that pretty much had it all. Oh, did I make it to 45 minutes? No, but when I'm starting to feel nauseated, that's when I know I gotta stop. Only 34 minutes? Oh, yes, it can be taken out of context. Oh, man. I feel nauseated. That happens sometimes during these live streams. Problem is, you're staring at a computer screen for 8 hours, and the 5 days before, 10 hours a day. But I was just feeling especially bad today. Got that little sickness sweat. It's not like workout sweat. It's that sweat when you are just fucked up. Not fucked up in like you're drunk sense, but like you're just sick. I'll try some more. I die immediately. I'll try some. No, dead. It's like the game is trying to tell me something. It's like, don't do it, General. You're going to die from computer exposure. Let's see. Is there any other level? No, there's just the 2 we can go to. Because we would need to... A crystal skull is required. Let's see. Does that actually save your progress? Yeah, it does. Very nice. I like that. Descent... I did that a little bit, where I would remake some of my, I do data entry. A lot of data entry. 58 hours worth of data entry. I mean, it's actually a pretty good job, because you get to work from home and all that. But damn, it gets, rather, I wouldn't say taxing, but if you're looking at a screen all day, every day, it does get a little old after a while. A little old. God damn it. Oh yeah, how bad am I hurt? I'm not even paying attention to that. I'm just kind of like odd and odd going through there. Well, Silver Wings, going through all N64 games is much more doable than, say, the NES. But I did rework a number of my actual reviews for CGR Undertow, since there was an 8-minute limit they had, and they were really stringent about that 8-minute limit too. It's like, but you can't actually tell anybody about a game in 8 minutes. You gotta say more stuff than that. No, it's nothing like computer coding or anything. It's literally just entering data into like spreadsheets and stuff like that. It still requires very fast typing skills, though. Very, very fast typing skills. Oh, let's see. Anything? What time is it? 40 minutes. We're at 40 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. It's kind of like when I'm at work. I'm like just constantly looking at the time. It's like, oh, it's only like 15 more minutes. But let's see, where was I? Now, as I mentioned in my vlog, was that last week? A week before last? I don't even remember. My brain is tired. I mentioned I was going to get a Rossi R92. That thing did actually come in last Wednesday. It is absolutely amazing. I saw a video before it came in on how in 2020 Rossi really upped their game, and they did. That thing, holy crap, you don't need to file anything down on that thing, because that lever is extremely smooth. And the wood, absolutely amazing. I would show it, but YouTube does not allow you to do that, so the video will get taken down because you can't show yourself moving a gun. That would be evil or something. Right now, I'm going to do a first shots on that as soon as the Picatinny rail of the Old West comes in. And the red dot of the Old West comes in. Because while I wanted a nice Western-styled rifle, I also like to be able to hit things with it. So, it's getting Picatinny railed. Holy crap. Why would you want to even play through all the NES games? Most of them aren't that great. It wasn't really either one of those things. It wasn't big business or really strict. It's just they had rules and they wanted you to follow them. And made a decent amount of money. Not much, though. Yeah, pretty much. But at least most of those N64 games are halfway decent. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I feel like crap. I'm going to go lay down and try to sleep. Hopefully next week I can get back on and play for more than 45 minutes. No, we're only at 42 minutes! Only 42! So I hope everyone is staying alive in this lovely, lovely climate we're living in today. Watch out for city cores, because there's some craziness going on there. Be sure to use lots of hand sanitizer. And avoid watching the news so you don't become depressed. So I'm General Lotz. I'm going to wish you all the good Sonic the movie, whatever, makes you happy.